Mechagodzilla was not the first robotic kaiju doppelganger. But just as Godzilla's fame outstripped that of King Kong, so has Mechagodzilla's fame outstripped that of Mechanic-Kong. Mechagodzilla has even been in movies without Godzilla. I mean, heck, he's so famous that in Godzilla vs. Kong, one of the characters even knew that the giant robot Godzilla was supposed to be called Mechagodzilla, and corrected one of the other characters who gave him the wrong name. Now that is famous. Mechagodzilla is also one of the most wildly varying kaiju, with multiple different origins, settings, and personalities, for lack of a better term. One time, he even evolved into a city. So number 5, HEISEI Mechagodzilla. The version of Mechagodzilla from Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2, and the only number 2 I know of that isn't a sequel to the number 1, is a nice, slick 90s version of the robot. But more than how he looks, I like the revised origin that he brings to the character. Instead of a weird alien doppelganger, this Mechagodzilla introduces the concept of him as an invention of humanity to fight Godzilla on his own terms, kaiju to kaiju. Number 4, SHOWA Mechagodzilla. The premise of the SHOWA Mechagodzilla is a bit silly. An alien race creates a robotic duplicate of Godzilla with the intent of using him to besmirch Godzilla's reputation. You know, the giant atomic abomination who has repeatedly leveled multiple Japanese cities and killed thousands of people. Besmirch his reputation. Oh, I know. Godzilla had long since been repositioned as a Japanese folk hero in the Showa series by the time of Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla. It's still a bit funny to me, though. But why this oddly premised Mechagodzilla places higher than the HEISEI is that I actually kind of prefer his more industrial look. You know, this isn't a sleek sports car version of Mechagodzilla. This is a heavy-duty piece of machinery. Number 3, Anagogi Mechagodzilla. Seriously though, I actually like this version for being so weird-looking. While he does have the general shape of a young Godzilla Earth, he looks like a janky robot cobbled together with extraterrestrial aesthetic sensibilities. It's just sad that we never really see this Mechagodzilla in the films. By the time the characters come across him, his regenerative properties have expanded to becoming an all-consuming nanometal that has spread out like a slime mold to create an entire city fortress. That itself is a neat idea, and it serves the themes of the anime trilogy better than just Mechagodzilla and Godzilla Earth duking it out in a fistfight. Mechagodzilla City is still a mirror to Godzilla Earth. Godzilla Earth's DNA refashioned the entire ecosystem of the planet, which is mirrored by Mechagodzilla's nanometal consuming and rebuilding raw material. This Mechagodzilla expands beyond just being a robot doppelganger to being a dark mirror to Godzilla. Whereas Godzilla Earth is a spirit of the Earth, for lack of a better term, rising to save the planet from humanity by refashioning it into something completely hostile to human life, Mechagodzilla is humanity's attempt to save itself by refashioning the planet completely into something technological. Eventually, that technology even subsumes and refashions human flesh. But that's the city. As a design for Mechagodzilla himself, I like the anime version. Number 2, KIRYU. Now we get the really edgy 2000s version. HEISEI Mechagodzilla was still too early in the 90s. KIRYU is the dark and edgy Millennium Mechagodzilla, to counterpoint the dark and edgy Millennium Godzilla. KIRYU is the black leather trench coat of Mechagodzillas. But more than the specific design of this Mechagodzilla, which is, granted, a large part of why he comes in at number 2, is the movie itself. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla is one of my favorite Millennium-era Godzilla movies, and even one of my favorite Godzilla movies overall, because it is basically a live-action anime. But it's a live-action anime in all the right ways, unlike, say, a Pacific Rim, which was a live-action anime in all the stupid ways. What I mean is Pacific Rim very much followed the pacing and story beats of an anime series, right down to the, this would have been the flashback episodes where we learn all about the mysterious girl's tragic past. But something about how Pacific Rim did it, that I can't quite put my finger on, made me hate it. Like, I can't stand Pacific Rim. I think it's one of the stupidest movies I've seen in recent memory. I suspect the thing I can't put my finger on is that by being an homage to anime by people who aren't Japanese, it ends up coming off more like a satire of them. I mean, at the very least, it just made me want a palate cleanser by watching, like, Macross or something. Godzilla against Mechagodzilla avoids this, perhaps because it is Japanese. The movie even has speed lines, but somehow it feels like it avoids satirizing anime or just being a hollow homage, and instead becomes simply a Godzilla film done in that format. And to be fair, that quality was even missing from the sequel, Tokyo SOS. It's ineffable, something you just sort of know when you see it. And that brings us to number 1, which I suppose is obvious at this point. I mean, there's only so many Mechagodzillas to choose from. So, number 1, Ready Player One Mechagodzilla. What, did you think I was going to say Monsterverse? No way. That is the crappiest looking of all Mechagodzillas. Ready Player One, on the other hand, has the Mechagodzilla I find most aesthetically satisfying. This version has the heavy industrial look of the Showa Mechagodzilla, blended with some of the more anime-esque aesthetics of Kiryu and jankiness of the Anagoji Mechagodzilla, with a nice overall sweep to his shape. It's a nice callback to the unrealized version of Mechagodzilla on the poster for Godzilla vs. Mechagodzilla 2. It was a fun opportunity for Toho to realize the version they were never actually able to make on their own. So where are we at now with my perfect kaiju movie? We've got Shin Gojira versus Void Ghidorah versus SOS Mothra versus Ready Player One Mechagodzilla. Not a terribly bad lineup altogether. Man, I don't even know who there's left to do a top 5 of. There's like, only 4 distinct enough versions of Rodan, and 3 of Gigan, and 2 of Hedorah? Maybe next I'll have to do a roundup of kaiju in general.